Okay. Hello, everyone, and sorry. Hello, everyone. I'm Shweta Singh, and welcome to another Foreman community demo. I'll be hosting today's demo, and it's if you have any questions or any comments, please feel free to reach out us on Matrix, or we can discuss about it on this Google Meet as well. So let's get started. So, starting with the agenda, we have quite a few topics for today's demo, starting with Lucy, and then we will go to the next ones. So, Lucy, whenever you are ready, it's about improving the support to download, generate, host inventory support reports.
Thank you. Let me present my screen. I think you can see it. Okay. In the past sprint, we have worked on the improvement to support the download of the generated host inventory report for disconnected. On this Insights inventory upload page, you can see all the settings on the top right section. The first one is the automatic inventory upload, and then along with other settings. And then in the middle, you have two buttons for different operations that talk to Insights server at the console.redhat.com. And then at the bottom, you have the organization. Oh, let me change to. At the bottom is the organization menu bar. For each organization you have in your server, there's an entry here. And for each organization, there are two tabs. One is for generating reports, and the other one is for uploading reports. And here you have the generate and upload report button that will generate a report and upload it to Insight at the console.com in one shot. Once the report is available, you can also download the report that will download the reports to your satellite server here. And this is layout for a server that's connected that can talk to Insight directly. And if your server doesn't have internet connection somehow, we have to change a setting to mark your server as disconnected server. The setting is subscription connection enabled. We turn it off. And then we go back to Insight's inventory upload page. You will see the page looks a little bit different. Can you tell the difference here? Let's check out here. So on the left is the connected server, on the right is a disconnected one. So the setting automatically in the inventory upload is gone for the disconnected server, along with the two buttons that talk to Insights, requires internet connection. And also the uploading tab is gone for disconnected server. This button, generate and upload report, becomes generate a report. So for disconnected server, this button will just generate a report without uploading. And also we get less descriptions messages here that will talk about the operations that would require connections. If you have any comments or suggestions regarding this change, please contact us. That's the UI changes. For Hammer, these commands related to Insight's operations are all put under hammer inside subcommands. Currently, there are 4 commands. The commands to generate reports and the download report has been just added recently. Let's run some commands here. So we got all the help page here that give you the details. And you also have hammer insights inventory page. We can run a generate report. You can specify a no upload option, so that will generate a report without upload. But without that option, you will generate a report and upload to the console.com. The report is generated, then we can download it. The file is downloaded to the path you specified here. Is on, for me, is on the root. And we can take a look at the report. Let's take a look at the metadata JSON file. It's just all the information is here. And also the contents of the host information. That's what I have for today.
Thank you, Lucy. Anyone has any questions? If not, we can move to the next one. Next one is from Chris on give customers the ability to only send the minimum amount of data for subscription reporting. So Chris, whenever you are ready.
Yeah, let me go ahead and share it here. All right. Let's see. Hopefully you can see this okay. I'll zoom in a little bit. So kind of what Lucy showed. So I have here a couple different hosts. I have this box. I have an actual RHEL system, and I have some hypervisors here. And so what we've added is if you go to inventory upload here, there's this new drop down. And what this does, if you flip it, basically for minimal, we only send like the very bare minimum that subscription watch needs. So this is for customers that are really, that want to like have subscription reporting, but do not want to send like anything that pretty much identifies their host name, their IP address, anything. We just collect like subscription manager ID, and I can show what that looks like, and along with a few other facts. And I'll show you what it looks like in the console now too. So when you flip this to minimal data collection, you'll see that these toggles get flipped, and we actually have, you'll see that they're disabled. We don't honor them at all. We don't let the customers change them. And if you go to settings here, when we actually flip that, let me refresh this here, we actually enable all the settings to true. As you can see here, it just went to all these, just flip those to true. So what happens then is now, if you go into this default organization and you do a generate and upload report, you'll see it run here, but it's going to take a second. And so we've looked at, we'll look at the report here in just a second. So that's uploaded. So what this looks like here in console dot first, let's take a look at what the inventory looks like. They're probably thinking like, I have hosts already, what's going to happen with them? So if we look at the inventory, we actually create let's just look at this host here. We just create UUIDs in inventory. And so as you can see here, there's like pretty much nothing except for the subscription manager ID. That one doesn't have insights, but satellite is next to, but we pretty much have nothing about the host. So it's not sending anything that would be identifying to the customer. Obviously, none of this is going to work. And so the customers kind of have to know that, is that if you're going to do this, none of these, like advisor, vulnerability, you won't get anything other than subscription reporting. And so that's kind of what Rich Street was, his direction was, is that, okay, you can not send us anything, but you're not going to get any of the actual insights working. So that's where the compromise was. So how does this look actually in, like, as far as subscription watch? So if you go to subscription watch here, and I'm using my own account just because like our one has so much stuff in it. But you can see here that we actually have a the system is reporting in. Ignore these guys. These are my dev box and a couple other things. But this is the one, the rel product the rel host that I have that you saw. And so if I click on him, back to inventory. And so it's reporting in. This one is sent off because we actually push out the Red Hat products that are installed. So that's why it gets counted for subscription reporting and not the hypervisors. The hypervisors are not counted as that. So let me show you what it looks like here. I'll show you what the actual JSON looks like that we send off. Let's see. All right. Steal this dev box here. All right, so we go to where was it? Right, inventory. Uploads. And if we look at this, if you've never seen this report, I'll just show you real quick what it has. We have the report ID, which version of inventory we're using for the API. Obviously, the source is satellite, and we're obfuscating the host name for the satellite because we don't want how it works. Basically, when we send off a report, is it will look at the insights ID, and any if that is set for obfuscation, it'll honor that first before it honors the settings. And we have a feature coming out later for Foreman 316 where we kind of simplify that and explain it a little bit better, because right now I think a lot of customers just toggle that setting and think everything's going to be obfuscated when that's really not the case if you have insights. So we're going to fix that. But as you can see here, I have, since that setting got set to true, my satellite is, or my Foreman box in this case, is obfuscated. We have an example.com. We send off the RH Cloud version, and we send off the report slice with how many hosts that we have. So if we look at this, we'll actually look at the report, the slice now. And you can see here, so this right here is, you can see it's basic. I'll show what a real one, like a good one with optional looks like, but you can see here that we don't really send off any identifying information. We send off the account, subscription manager ID, the BIOS, the ARC's infrastructure type, system profile, where I said we send off those products, and some facts about the system. And so if we look down, we can see here, there was a few hosts. We actually have some hypervisors here. So the facts look a little bit different based on if it's a hypervisor or a host. But you can see here, we don't really send anything that's identifying for the system. So that's why we get those UIDs in inventory. And that's how subscription, the installed products and those facts are what subscription watch needs. So let me show you what one looks like from a real host here. Oops. Clear the screen here. It's Foreman. Bar. run at inventory. All right, so we've got this report for, let me zoom into this one now. So if you look at the metadata, it's kind of the same thing. It's basically, you see here, my host is actually not obfuscated, so we send off the real information for the host. And if we look at the slice, you can see here that we send pretty much everything. So we send the host name, the satellite ID, MAC address, system profile, CPU flags. We'll send the OS information about the OS, the installed packages. If Catello agent is running, that's as a bug, we should get rid of that. And then we just send off basically tags too. So when you'll see those tags in the UI, that's basically, it's like a location, organization, if it was used with an activation key, which content view it has. Then we also send off facts about the satellite, like if it was obfuscated, if the host names are obfuscated, if we have simple content access, etc. So that's what a normal report looks like. So compared to that other one that you saw, much more trimmed down. And so I think this will make customers happy and actually want to use Subscription Watch, or Subscription Watch a little bit more. So that's all I had. I'll stop sharing now unless anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Chris. I don't see any questions in the chat. So if everyone is good, let's move to the next one. The next one is from Eric on binding the ring of power, intro to foreman-quadlet. So Eric, whenever you are ready.
All right. All right. So this is the first, and hopefully will be a series of community demo entries that talk about running Foreman and the ecosystem in containers via quadlets and a new installer. Since it may help contextually, the binding of the ring is a bit of a joke and play on the Lord of the Rings, Ring of Power, as we have jokingly said, we are trying to build one thing that can rule all the other things by combining everything together. So we started this through discussions about how we wanted to shift to containers and that it felt like such a big enough shift that it warranted exploring whether the current installer or a new installer is needed. And so we set about prototyping. We started by doing this with using Foreman and Catello, since that added significant complexity to have to tackle some bigger questions. We started by using Ansible because it was quick and easy to get up and running with, and it had collections that did what we needed. And we chose to deploy those containers as quadlets using Podman. So let's start with just a lightweight mention of the containers themselves, although this is mostly focused on the installer. We do have some guidelines in our repository around building, tagging of containers, the structure that we want to go for. It's worth a little bit of a read, and we've started doing this, building this out with Candlepin and Pulp to start with, because they're back-end services that we can build in an isolated way. So what is a quadlet? I think it's helpful to know what one is, since we will use that term a lot. It's a play on words because Kubernetes uses something called the kubelet, which is the underlying runtime within a Kubernetes node. So Podman halved the kubelet into a quadlet. It basically turns a Podman run. You give it some metadata and it creates a Podman run and turns it into a systemd service. And the definition of a quadlet looks very much like a systemd service. We turn config files and environment variables into Podman secrets, mount them into the container, and then run the container. So the basics of it become define a quadlet, create everything as secrets, mount the secrets into the container, and now you have a running systemd service based off of a container. And that's another reason we started prototyping with Ansible, because we found that we were not having to do a ton of complexity other than create the service, create the secrets, and bind them all together in the quadlet definition. Is this pure Ansible? Well, it's not. We started prototyping with pure Ansible, but we still recognize that a hallmark of the current installer and some of our other projects is providing a CLI, and there are things on top of Ansible by providing a CLI that we get without, that Ansible doesn't directly or easily provide us, such as being able to group parameters together to do some validation of parameters and slightly advanced logic if we need to. So far, we haven't really needed to do that. We had this project called Oval, which is used in our packaging repo, that uses this other project called Obsa, which basically wraps a lightweight CLI around Ansible playbooks. So that might sound like we basically are reinventing CAFO. CAFO is the library underneath the Foreman installer that takes Puppet modules and wraps a CLI around them. If you've ever taken a look at CAFO, it's got a lot going on. It's a fairly complex code base, and there's certainly things over the years that we have learned and wished we either did differently or could do differently. Right now, the way we are approaching the CLI, the code base feels very much like an Ansible collection with metadata, with some lightweight metadata present in it that ends up creating this lightweight CLI when the Obsa Python package is present. And this, again, for right now, gives us a clean start to apply lessons we learned from CAFO and our Puppet installer in how we design this from the beginning. So what does the install, what can it do? What does it look like right now? It's effectively 2 stages, although you can run just the deploy. However, pulling the images initially does help with the runtime of the deploy. So in this case, we run ROP, pull images. This is just a snippet. So it is like a CLI. You're calling a pull images command, and then you can see it's running Ansible. Then we run a deploy. Again, same thing. You can see that it is calling a command line tool, but then it is still Ansible-based output. And this is just a snippet of some of the output just to kind of show that workflow I was talking about, which is create the Podman, create a secret for client cert, create a secret for client key, and then deploy the Foreman container, which is the quadlet. And then just to show a little bit more about how it is, it is underneath the hood, or it is a CLI interface to the user. We have a help output. It only outputs the parameters that we are specifying. So right now we're taking an approach of don't give the user every single potential Ansible variable that is defined. but to be more pedantic about what parameters we're defining, and then under the hood, how that gets mapped, but trying to think more about what parameters we actually need and want to present to the user for configuration, and how we are trying to make sure we group logical things together so that if it's something that you should only have to specify once, such as database host, that you're not having to specify it every single time like you do today, where you have to say like foreman database host, pulp database host, candlepin database host. The idea here is you just specify database host, but there are some things that are still specific, and we are providing CLI options for those specific things, such as the name of the candlepin database, the password for the candlepin database. Those things should vary between services, but things like the database, where's the database server? What about this, certificate configuration for the database? That should be common across all of these. And you can see the same thing here. Just like the candlepin database, we have similar ones: foreman database name, foreman database password. This will use defaults, helpful defaults. As you saw, I can just call deploy without any parameters, and it works, right? We are keeping that standard of sane defaults, but with the ability to configure. But we've also kind of, as we worked on the CLI part for production installs, we realized, hey, we could just apply the same thing for development level activities in the same repo. Think of this like taking all the Ansible-y stuff that's in Forklift, but providing it natively within the repo, within the installer, and a nice little CLI wrapper around it too. So in this case, you can see there's an action, for example, to start and stop the VMs for local deployment and testing. There's a command to be able to just execute the tests. And in this way, we just define Ansible playbooks, a little bit of metadata around them, and we also have a development CLI tool. Which is great, right? Like thinking about tooling up front when it comes to how do we develop the installer itself. But I want to make clear we are also trying to think from the beginning how to ensure that this new way of running the stack, installing, deploying, takes into consideration how do developers then develop features of any of the apps, plugins, pieces and parts of the ecosystem. How do they develop this in a containerized world? Because it does change how we think about the deployment. So we are trying to design this in rather than bolt it on after the fact. If you're familiar with the current development experience, it does tend to feel very bolted on, and it's has its ups and downs. So we do want to make a call out. If you have input around developing in a containerized world and setup, go to this developer experience issue. Give it a read through. There's already a decent bit of good information there around what kind of considerations, environments people would like to be able to develop with and develop on, and how. And give us feedback. How do you like to develop? What would you like to make sure we try and see if we can support tooling and workflow wise when it comes to how you would develop in a world where we are primarily deploying everything as containers. All right, so what do we see as our next steps? So all the open issues and things we're working on, you can go to the GitHub project and see it all in sort of a Kanban board style as GitHub projects do. I don't have I think a direct link. Some of these links do link to issues on the project, but right now the project is called foreman-quadlet. There is an RFC about this on Discourse. We are working towards a 1.0. Part of that is we feel like it needs a real name or a better, name. We just named it very plainly foreman-quadlet because that's what we were trying to prototype. But I think it's expanded beyond just this is about quadlets, and we should give it a real name. So if you can help us out, go to that issue, the help us decide there, and just at least either give an input for a name or just vote for a name based off what's already there to just kind of help us get to a decision. The other, and I'd say the target I think we're looking at for 1.0 is to be sort of beta testing ready. And when that folks could take this installer, install it, and run it, and play around with it in a production style setup, but still in a beta testing mode, because we still have to do upgrades within the tool itself, and also how we might migrate from the old installer to the new installer. Speaking of, one of the key things to keep in mind here is we are aiming for conceptual parity with Foreman installer with what is in the documentation, which means you can think of this kind of like not every parameter on the Foreman installer. It has a ton. Not everything is going to map over or come with it. We're going to be aiming that the major features, the things we document and talk about, are present and have a way to upgrade with improvements, maybe changes in the names, but we'll aim to denote that and stuff as we go through this, because this is a new installer, it is a new world. Not everything from the RPM world maps the container world, and that so it's natural that we're going to aim for parity, but not have one-to-one for everything. And that's it. Thanks.
That's very interesting. Anyone has any questions? Okay, if not, we can move to the next one. All right. So the next one is from Maria, related to removing foreman-js test. So Maria, whenever you are ready.
Hi, can you hear me fine?
Yeah.
Great, I'm gonna try to share my screen. Yeah. This is basically the post explaining it, but I also wanted to give it a bit more attention here. We're gonna change the way we test front end to match more the way we test our backend with Capybara. So running tests will be done from Foreman core for plugins. Basically, it will be just run on all plugins or just run on a specific plugin. For now, testing from plugins, like from the plugin folder, will work as usual, but soon we will deprecate the testing package, the foreman test, and then if you're using a newer package or if your package JSON has just use any version of the foreman test, it will fail as we're going to deprecate it. So for plugins, they will need to import their update their imports if they're importing anything from the foreman test, to either import it from Foreman core or from the corresponding library. And also they will need to update their GitHub actions. We have generic actions for plugins, and somebody made a PR, Evgeny made a PR on doing it in remote execution, so you can just take a look how to do it from there. And later there will be also PRs that I will do in some plugins of removing the foreman test packages. So you will have plenty of examples. The same goes to lint. You will be able to run lint from core on one plugin or all plugins. The foreman lint rules are probably more strict than the plugin rules. So plugins will have to update their code to match the rules. I've seen it mostly with OUIA IDs that we require to help our QEs test things. And we require them on most Patternfly components, and our lint warns about it. Yeah, you will be able to run the lint or the test on all plugins, on one plugin, or even on a specific file. And this is the post. Yeah, you should also use the shared actions anyway, because it's more comfortable and it's united, and then we don't have to fix plugins one by one. Yeah, this is the post. If you have any questions or comments, you can make it in the forum. Yeah. Any other questions or comments from the call? Okay, then I have my second topic, which is I'm adding a file to developer docs. I'm gonna zoom in even. It's specifically for developers if they encounter UI issues. Most of these issues come from updating code. So if you're updating the version you're working on, or pulling, or working on a PR that someone else wrote or something like that, it's just small troubleshoot steps that you can do. Yeah, they're not complicated, but it's just so you will have like faster solutions than other than people asking you, did you delete node modules? Did you run npm install? Are you using the correct npm version? So this is just a few steps to go through before you open a bug or comment on the PR that something's not working. And it's also a request that if you have UI issues, please open the browser's developer console, read the bug, read the issue, read the error, see if you can update something, if the error is something you can fix by just updating something. And then the error will also point you to the right plugin to tell them if there's an issue somewhere. This is for development only, because I think in production there are no logs that are easy to read. So you can't recompile things. Yeah, this is currently an open PR. So if you want to add something, please comment there or ask there or complain there. It's all valid. Yeah, and those are my two topics. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Any questions on this? If not, then we can move to the next topic of the day, which is from Samir. Samir, are you ready with the setup?
Yeah, I
Okay,
can
great.
present it.
Sure. Thank you.
Right, presenting my whole screen. All right, so my demo is around this RFC we have had on the community for a while now. Let me give some background. So for RPM content, when we have a registered host, subscription manager sets up a bunch of certs, and following that, a registered host can simply pull down RPM content without having to log in or like any of that. And also for RPM content, a registered host can only access content that lives in its registered lifecycle environments. Okay, so that is RPM content. Container content has been special, as in it doesn't support any of that. So when you try to pull container content, it expects you to log in as a foreman user to Catalog. And then we do not enforce any lifecycle environment scoping to the content that the host can see. So as soon as you log in as a user on your Podman client, you immediately get access to all of the content that Ketelo hosts. So with this RFC, we are trying to bring container content closer to how RPM content is served, like authentication-wise. So for that, let me see. So this is the RFC that we had out. And what we are using is container certs. So today for RPM content, for example, subscription manager puts the entitlement certs in a specific directory that the DNF plugin can then use. However, we did not have any such setup for Podman client. But with the changes that I'm about to demo, we are now supporting certs via container certs.d. So what this does is it defines a way to provide certs to the Podman client then that the Podman client can then serve to Ketelo registry. So there is a very specific directory structure that the certs have to go in. This is not the same as where the subscription manager puts its certs. So the subscription manager puts its certs into HC PKI entitlements directory. But Podman and also Flatpak, which is not yet implemented but is in the roadmap, expects these certs to be in this very specific directory. Okay, so let me actually go ahead and start demoing some things. All right, so let me pull in my thing here. Okay, so here I have a rel 9 host, and I'll show you on the UI. So this is my host that I'm using right now. And you'll see I have it tied to library and container content view at the version 4. So let me see if I have that pulled up. Yeah, so this is basically the content view that the host is now pointed to. It has 4 container images, and let me also show what I have going on in my host. So if you see on my host, I am in this specific directory, HC containers certs.d, followed by the server name. This directory structure comes from this container certs. So this is how you set it up. You need a CRT file, which is your CSR. Then you want the certificate and the key set up in this particular directory structure. So I have that. So I have a client cert and these. Okay, so one more thing. So to set this up, we are working on some steps to be able to set these up more easily on the client. For now, it's all manual. So basically what we are doing is we are creating a soft link for the CA-cert, and we are creating a soft link for our entitlement certs that get generated when you register the host. So we are reusing those all of those certs to pass those to the Ketelo registry. Now what that does is, so I'll show you the current state with the certs set up. So what you can do here is if you run any Podman commands, for example, right? So let me try search. Oh, yeah. Okay, so when I try to search, let me try hiding this. I can see 4 container repositories available to me. And if you look at this path, it's library container, which is container is the content view that we have, library being the environment. So we did restrict the user to only the content in the lifecycle environments that the host is registered to. And the host also did not require any user authentication, so there was no prompt to log into this server registry as such. So similarly, I can pull content without having to log in since I have my certs set up on this host. So if I were to do this, it will pull the image without making me log in. So let me try this. Okay, so let me try this. I will remove these certs. So what that will do is basically make me fall back to the old user auth. Okay. So now I don't have my cert set up in the directory that Podman will look for. So now if I were to run the same commands, right? So now I get unauthorized authentication required. So it's asking me to log in. So now I can log into this particular server. Try that. And ask me for a username. So this is how it behaves currently. So if you do not have your certs, it will fall back to the old method of username and password login. And now if I try searching, right? So now I'll see a lot more images because this is how it used to behave, and it will still behave if you don't use cert authentication. So you'll immediately see all of the container content that your registry is serving without any lifecycle environment scoping. And once you have logged in, as it currently behaves to the registry, you can now pull content. So this is the old method and also what we fall back to. So, okay, so for now, the next steps that we are doing is to make setting this directory structure easier for the admins. And what that would mean is we'll add some steps to the global registration template and also provide a new Rex job that will handle all of this for you. So once you register a host, you should have this Cert-auth immediately set up on your registered host. Okay, and that's all I had for the demo.
Thank you, Samir. And that is all for this community demo. Anyone has any questions or comments to share? If not, then the next demo will be on June 12th. So see you everyone then. Thank you everyone for joining.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.